Hi Ben, welcome to From the Stage Door.
Hello.
Hiya, thank you for joining me.
That's all right. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to kick off with a little bit of background on your career.
Yes.
Okay, so my first question is, have you always had a passion for theatre and performing?
Yes. When I was really young, my mum used to take me to see like all of the shows. I think the first memory I have was going to see Fame, but I can't remember like when that was. It was like way back when. And I remember being obsessed with it, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm doing it. There was no other
Yeah.
option. Um, so yeah, kind of started all of that when I was like 4 years old. And it's always been something that we've enjoyed as a family, going to see shows and concerts and everything like that.
Mhm.
And it's just kept me going and being like, yeah, I'll do it. There's like no other option. I'm going for it, and that's going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, that's good. That's good.
But yeah,
What was your first ever theatre job?
my first ever theatre job was um, panto when I was in training still. So when I was at
Mhm.
college, my first panto was in Bridlington
Okay,
up in North Yorkshire. So I did that. But then since graduating, I went out to Australia to do a tour of putting on the Ritz, which
cool.
was like my first professional contract.
That's a really good first professional contract,
It
though.
was lovely. I'm not gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is a good one.
yeah.
Definitely,
Spent 10 months
definitely.
out in Australia, but like a month touring with putting on the Ritz, and then onto a ship straight away.
Cool.
So
And
like
with Sorry. With the like how do you find like audiences in different countries? Do you find that they react differently? I know I had a friend that went to Germany on tour and he said their audiences are very, very different in their reactions.
yeah. Um, I certainly noticed it in Australia.
Hmm.
They were very different. Kind of a bit more light-hearted than some of the British audiences in
Yeah.
some cases, um, which was lovely. And then yeah, I don't know. It was a tap and ballroom tour, so it was
Mm.
kind of not the most rowdiest of shows. um, so they were very polite audiences. But then,
Mm.
on the other hand, when I went onto the ship over in Australia, we had a rock show, and they were the rowdy audiences, and they were willing to go like all guns blazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my word, you'd never get this in the UK." They're obviously like, "This is nice."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I do
it's
find the
definitely
audience,
different to British audiences.
yeah, the audience reactions in different countries just seem to be really, really different, which is
Yeah,
it's interesting.
yeah, certainly is. And also, like, I think different countries, but then actually when you go even around the UK, like reactions within
Mhm.
the UK are so different to like London to Birmingham to Nottingham,
Mhm.
wherever you are. Like, I think they're different as well, on like
Yeah.
a smaller scale, but
Yeah.
still different.
Yeah.
Depends what show you're in as well, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose so.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
that was quite nice though to be out in Australia, sunning myself for 10 months.
Yeah, I
Like,
can imagine. Well, so who was your greatest influence growing up?
um, oh, my greatest influence. I think I was very lucky in terms of like the teachers that I had when I was younger.
Mhm.
Um, they were very willing to like push me forward,
Mhm.
not like too much. They were kind of like, we just need to know if Ben wants to do this as a career or in life, and then if he does, then let's go.
Mm.
Like, no messing about. Come on. And that was like a real switch in my brain. I think when I was about like 11 or 12, to be like, oh, I've seen what I want to do, but now I actually need to put it in action. So
Yeah.
like my teachers were constantly there throughout, and I'm still like my teachers that I had when I was younger at my old dance school aren't just my old teachers anymore. They're like family, friends, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which is nice. I've managed to keep in contact with them, and they've supported me the whole way through. Um, but then, like my mum and dad, bless them, are so supportive that they're willing to kind of do everything, like
Mm.
anything and everything, to support me in this career. And when I was making the choices to, I actually want to do this as a career,
Mm.
um, mum ended up speaking to friends that she knew through work and got me in touch with a guy called Stephen Horton, who
Mhm.
has done Cats, Miss Saigon, like
Yeah.
a shed load of stuff way back when he was in the original cast of London's Burning on TV.
Okay.
And he was like the first kind of male teacher I've had that was kind of like, go on, I've been a male in the industry, you're going to be a male in the industry, let's go for it. So he was a massive part of kind of my training and the influence into college as well and into full-time training. And then I think since in my career as well, like I've seen what he's done, and him and his family are still there to support me, and I'm still in contact with them and teaching for them now. So it's been like a constant throughout,
Yeah.
which has been lovely.
Yeah.
But in terms of like icons wise, I've never really had like that one person that's kind of like driven me towards it. I think I've always seen the show as a whole, whether it's got that kind of like icon in it for me or whatever. It's always been the show that's been like, I can see myself in that. It doesn't matter like what track or what role or anything like that. I'm like, I want to do that show.
Yeah.
So that's driven me towards it, I think. And then just having the influence of teachers to be like, we understand that, let's go. Which has been nice.
Yeah, and it's good that you can keep in touch as well, because I think there's always, no matter where you are in your career, there's always questions that you need to go back to somebody who's been there and done it and knows the answer.
Oh my word, massively, yeah. And I think actually I've been really fortunate during this time with COVID and everything like that, going back to Stephen and his family as well with their school. There's been so many times where I've sat there and kind of gone, this teaching at the minute has been the one thing that's kind of like kept me going throughout the whole of like the lockdown and stuff. And I actually think he's now realised that if he was in this like same situation with working in the industry, he would be like, this would keep me sane. So he's been there supporting me throughout this as well, which has been nice.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
And needed.
So, which theatre is your favourite to perform in?
Oh. Okay. That's a tough one. I've got like 3.
Okay.
It's okay. Sorry.
All of them.
First of all, the Leeds Grand, I think, is stunning inside. Went there with Cabaret on tour, and that was like actually just before lockdown. That was our second to last venue before we got closed.
Okay.
And I remember being in there, and they've got like all the little chandeliers on the balconies and everything like that, and I was like, oh, this is stunning.
Yeah.
And we just all looked at it and was like, this is a good theatre. We like this theatre. It didn't help that I think it's a rake stage, which wasn't handy with Cabaret, with everything being on. I was like, I like it, but let's go. From aesthetic point of view, I was like, oh, this is pretty, like really, really nice. The Birmingham Hippodrome took my breath away when I got there, in terms of, I think it's such a massive auditorium.
Yeah.
And the stage is huge as well.
Yeah.
And I remember like stepping on stage the first time there, and I was like, oh, okay, this is massive. Yeah. And I was like, it just feels really comfortable as well. And it helps that it's got like stunning backstage facilities, because that also makes and breaks the theatre, I think, as to what you've got as the performer backstage. And then my last one was the Manchester Palace. Again, like massive, like similar style to, I think, the Hippodrome. But that was one that I'd always kind of wanted to perform at as well. So that was kind of like a tick off the list.
Yeah.
Because family has been in Manchester, and so I've always gone to see shows at the Palace if I've been in Manchester visiting. And funny enough, going back to Stephen, I saw him there in Seven Brides, Seven Brothers when I was like little. And it was so weird to be there and see like the poster in the stairwell backstage and like see his face on it, and I was like, oh my god, like how weird that I came and saw him here, not knowing who he was at that point as well, and then having been trained by him, and then now performing in this theatre. I was like, this is tick 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 on the list. I was like, this is great. So yeah, I think those have to be my 3.
And I think it's moments like that that just make you realise how special theatre is. That kind
Yes.
of things just come together
Yeah.
randomly like
Yeah.
that.
It was so nice, and just to like not having pieced it together in my head first,
Mm,
as in like I knew we were going to the Manchester Palace, and I was like, oh, like lovely theatre. I've seen it before,
mm.
but then just to like just happen to walk by this poster and be like, oh, I recognise that. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my word! Like I hadn't put that together because it was
Mm,
from way back. I was like, this is amazing.
mm.
Something special about that was nice.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So what has been your most challenging role to date?
Um, challenging role would have to be on cabaret,
Mm,
playing hands in the ensemble. I think it was, well, for me, it was my first musical
mhm,
that I've done. Um, and it was just a whole different process in rehearsals. And admittedly, we only had a very short rehearsal period for it,
mm.
and you're kind of like thrown in the deep end with it. And I'd forgotten completely from auditioning what the show cabaret was like.
Mm.
I was like, oh, this will be nice. Like, accepted the offer, everything, got to rehearsals, and then it's not a, how do I say this? It's not a very pleasant show in
Mm.
terms of like it's very nitty gritty.
Yeah.
You're practically half naked for the majority of it, um, and you're meant to be off your face on cocaine and all the drugs at
Mm.
2:30 on your matinee. Like, oh god. Um, and I'd completely forgotten that the whole storyline behind cabaret, who
Mhm.
the cabaret kinder are within the show, and got to rehearsals, and our choreographer was like, right, so you boys, you sniff your first line of cocaine on the 8. I was like, sorry. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, oh, this is the show that I'm in. So like, which is completely not me as a person. I'm
Yeah.
very like, hello, nice to meet you. um, and so that came as a shock. And actually, just with the short rehearsal period, just being thrown into it, being like, you are each of the ensemble, which was lovely, is
Mhm.
their own character,
Yeah.
and you stay that character the whole way through the show. So it's your chance to develop
Mhm.
the relationships within it and know who you are and what stands you apart from the rest of the kinder.
Mhm.
Um, but like doing that in a 2 week rehearsal period and then opening in Bromley, it was like, oh my
Wow.
god.
Yeah.
But having said that, was an incredible experience.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, kind of doing that was tough, and also the choreography is not easy in that show whatsoever.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, physically as well, was a lot of lifting
Mhm.
because Hans was kind of like the ballet duo within
Mhm.
the ensemble, like within the kinder,
Yeah.
and for me meant every single lift in the show. And when I actually counted it, I was like, that's crazy. I was like, I
Yeah.
do, bearing in mind, I think there's about 3 or 4 kind of like bigger dance numbers and then all the little bits in between.
Mhm.
But in 3 or 4 dance numbers, I had 32 lifts in an entire show,
Wow.
which is, it kind of doesn't sound like a lot, but when they're like the big lifts, and
Yeah.
funny enough, within cabaret, you're catching people off a moving staircase.
Mhm.
Like, there's a lot coming onto you, and I was like, whew, this is a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, challenging in so many different ways, but so rewarding as well,
Mm.
which was nice.
Yeah,
My
definitely.
favourite thing. Getting back to it.
I know, I know. So, how do you deal with nerves when you're performing?
um, that's a good question. I go like one of 2 ways with
Mhm.
nerves. I think I can be absolutely fine at certain moments, and I think there hasn't been a show to date where I haven't had nerves. There's
Mhm.
always been something that I think lights a little fire in you and gets you going through it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's a different nerves between kind of like opening nights in new venues and stuff like that if you're touring or
Mhm.
wherever you are, to having like people that you know in gives you like a different reaction to it.
Yeah.
You still give like the same show to any audience, but when you've got that, like your parents in, for example, or like your best friends in, you're like, oh my god, that's a lot, isn't it? Like pressure. It's kind of the pressure nerves that get to you. And like I go one of two ways. I go either chatting all hell for leather and just don't stop talking to anyone in the changing rooms or people backstage. And then there's sometimes like, Ben, shut up, like focus now. And I'm like, oh okay. Or I just go completely silent and in my own little world where I'm just like, get myself ready. I'll then go and stretch in a corner somewhere where no one is around me and get myself like pumped for the show. But there seems to be like no middle ground where you just kind of walk around and you're like, have a good show, everyone. Like I'm either like, have an amazing time, or
and do you have any sort of dressing room rituals or anything like that helps with that?
I don't know. I think again, like it's dependent on shows and stuff like that. Like I'd always put my headphones in for putting on the Ritz in the changing rooms, just because then I'd like have a little bit of music on and just kind of like get into the zone. And also I think because we were touring in Australia, we had massive journeys to the theatres each kind of like night or couple of nights that you just wanted a bit of time just to yourself because you just got off a coach and gone into the show. So like I'd always listen to a bit of music and shut myself off, but like for cabaret I'd always end up doing pretty similar things like every night. As in I'd always have a shower before the show, like every single show. If it's 2-show day, whatever, I'd end up having like 6 showers in a day. Like get up in the morning, have a shower, get to the theatre, have a shower before the show, have a shower after the show, have a shower before the next one, have a shower after the next one. I was like, oh my god, and if I really wanted to have a shower and go home, like come on, you can only be so clean, can't you?
Yeah.
But like I'd always have a shower. I'd always kind of get like all of your underwear and stuff on, and I'd always have my dressing gown on. There was never a day where I didn't have my dressing gown on, dependent on temperature.
Yeah.
And then you sit and you know exactly how you do like your makeup. If anyone was to come and like disturb that, I'd be like, not at the minute, I need to focus. But then also I think like with the people around you as well, we had a few little rituals in shows, and certainly before shows where like really silly on cabaret, as soon as the drum roll had gone at the beginning and you've gone into Velkommen, there was like a few of us that would do like a little ab exercise and a little hip exercise along to the music, and then us boys would always go to a separate corner and do press ups, and it was always like you had to do those things if you wanted to like feel good.
Yeah.
You probably don't. You could probably just get on with and do the show.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of that doesn't necessarily come from like me in the changing room getting myself ready, but very much like the people I have around me, and we have like little things together, which just know like it's okay, you're fine, enjoy the show, go on.
Yeah.
Which is always nice.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So, what would be your dream role or dream show to be in?
I'm gonna have to say Wicked.
Okay.
I personally don't necessarily want to go along the route of kind of like lead roles and stuff. I love being a part of the ensemble, and eventually kind of in my mind my map is ensemble and dance captain, and eventually into like associate and assistant choreographer and that kind of route.
Yeah.
So very much still maintaining part of that ensemble life. But like I think Wicked would have to be my dream show from an ensemble point of view. I think the choreography is stunning, and I think very challenging as well, and pushes you. I don't think I'd want to be in a show necessarily where you get very comfy with it, and you're just kind of like, oh, I'm doing the same stuff 8 or 9 shows a week, whatever it is. You'd constantly be pushed in that, and I think that's what I'd like as well. I think it would have to be Wicked.
Okay. And who would you most like to work with in the industry? Who's the one person you'd really like give anything to work with?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. I think I get quite like starstruck. Like easily, I'm like, oh my god, it's that person. And I was chatting to one of my friends the other day, and he works front of house in a gym,
Mhm.
and one of his clients that come into his gym is Rachel Tucker,
Mm.
and she's just like, "Hiya, you all right? Like, do you want to go grab a coffee?" And I'm like, if that happened to me, I'd be like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
I think in my head I'm envisaging that like Rachel Tucker as Elphaba again with me. I'd be like, "Yes, I made it." But like, yeah, I think funny enough, it's more like female roles that
Mm.
I'd I can appreciate like male singing voices, but there's something about female singing voices sometimes that I'm just like, I could just listen to you all day.
Mm.
Like, keep singing, go
Yeah.
on. um, so I think Rachel Tucker would be like an amazing
Mm.
person to work with. I think also I get the vibe that she's very like personable and friendly.
Yeah.
I'm like, that would be nice.
Yeah.
And I've been obsessed with Kerry Ellis for God knows how many years. And I'm like, if I just got the chance, I'd be like, hi.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a tough question. I
Sorry.
think. It's fine. But you know,
Challenging
like,
you.
I think people really surprise you sometimes as well.
Mm.
That people that you might not necessarily think about wanting to work with really like take you by surprise, and then you're like, oh, that was incredible. I had the
Yeah.
best time with that person, or I mean, vice versa, whatever.
Mm.
But yeah, I think they can take you by surprise and actually show like a completely different side to what you have envisaged and what you potentially see as
Yeah.
well at points. So that's quite hard.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Ooh, okay. Um, I think when I was younger in school and stuff, I was very much the only boy who danced.
Mm.
Obviously, with that comes shed load of bullying about being gay, this,
Mm-hmm.
that, and the other. Um, and I was very fortunate. I had a lot of friends that stuck up for me, and I didn't know my sexuality then
Mm.
at all. I was very convinced that I was straight and that was my life, and it's definitely not. um, but like my friends were supporting me 100%, but I don't think, as in if I could give myself advice, it would just be like, just enjoy the moment
Mm-hmm.
and don't let it doesn't matter what anyone thinks at the end of the day. As long as you're confident in how you feel and go for it, like, don't be scared.
Yeah.
And I think I'd give myself that advice now, to be quite honest.
Mm.
Um, I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes. I think with this industry and also like various different industries as to what people think about you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it matters at the same time.
Mm.
We all try and please people, and we do it for like either that one person or whoever it may be, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. And so I think there was a lot of probably wasted time when I was younger
Mm.
that kind of meant I didn't push myself as hard as I could have done. Um, I wasn't as confident to go for things. I think I let myself down in certain areas of the industry that I don't feel like are my strongest points and stuff. I
Mm.
don't think I put as much work into it because I was always like scared of what would happen.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. As in, like, obviously, if you put work into it, you're probably going to get better. The more you
Yeah.
practice, the better you get. But I was scared as to getting better because I was like, I trust this side. I trust this is what I want to do.
Mm.
Like my dancing, for example, is like my strongest, well, my most like driven thing for me. That's what I
Yeah.
stick to. And so I think I was scared as what other people would thought if I practiced more of my singing, more of my acting, more of tap, this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I now don't care what people think. I'm like, yeah, I will practice because I'm going to get better.
Mm.
So who's there to judge me and shut me down if necessary? So it's kind of like, I would say, the people in your life that, okay, will help you and benefit you, and maybe you should care what they think because they're there to support you.
Yeah.
And it's learning the difference between people who are going to build you and try and break you. And I shouldn't have given those people in school who tried to break me the time of day.
Yeah.
I certainly don't anymore. So
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah. I think
But at the time,
that's
like
definitely
when you're
nice.
younger, you go through so much
Yeah.
that now I'd kind of turn around to myself and be like, it's okay if you're gay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a shed load of difference to anything. Just go for what you want to go for.
Mm.
Whereas in school, I was like, no, not at all.
Yeah,
But
and I think it's so easy to, especially in this industry, to be overcritical of yourself and to be hard on yourself when you
yes,
don't need to be.
yeah, it's very
And
much about how you feel and what you want to put forward,
mm,
um, and trusting yourself with what you've trained in, what your passion is, everything around it is trust yourself with that and put that forward.
yeah,
Don't put a hesitant version of yourself forward because it's not fully there. You're holding back probably.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I think as well, you can be the best person in an audition, but just not be right for that part. And it doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It's just the way it is.
on my word, massively. Yeah. Um, you learn, I think, going through it. There are so many things that you can't control necessarily.
Mm,
And I think I heard, funny enough, during this lockdown period, I think back in May time
mm-hmm,
probably, I was doing like a load of classes online. There are free ones that were going out on
mm-hmm,
Instagram and like paid classes for different things. And I think it was one of Drew McConey's classes or something like that. He then had a Q&A at the end of it.
yeah,
And for me, he summed up the whole kind of like audition, like yay or nay
yeah,
part perfectly. I was like, oh my word, I never even thought about that. And that's like after training and auditions and everything
yeah,
like that. I was just like, oh my god, you've hit the nail on the head. He said that like a show, when it gets around to auditions and stuff like that,
mm-hmm,
what you don't see is this timeline that actually it's been in production the entire time. Music has been created, costumes, set, plans for the show, everything has been done here.
mm,
You're at auditions here and you've got this much to go before the show. So like, yeah, you might not be right for the show, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not right as a person. It
yeah,
just means that tonally, which is the word he used, like
mm,
image wise, the how you move, what you present to yourself doesn't match all of this work that they've put in beforehand. And I
yeah,
think we forget that as performers, certainly. We go
mm,
into an audition and be like, why am I not right?
yeah,
And you forget that there's this whole storyboard effectively that has been created behind your little bit of auditions.
yeah,
Um, and I was like, oh my word, you've literally like
mm,
nailed that on the head. Just saying like, because I think so many people say like, I'm not right look wise.
mm-hmm,
That's the biggest thing that people say is I don't look right for the show. But actually, it's a whole thing to do like tonally as a person,
yeah,
whether that is look or that is physically just how you move,
mm-hmm,
um, or what you present. Like it really hit the nail on the head for me, and I was like,
mm,
oh yeah, you just can't control it.
yeah,
Um, I am me. Um, if I'm not right for that show, then again, what Drew McConey said is it's hard to make someone lie in a
yeah,
show. We've got this story that we want them to believe. We're not going to make you lie to them, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
then makes the image for the audience even harder if someone doesn't look right in that show or
yeah,
isn't tonally right in the show. And I was like, oh my word, you've just cleared up everything. You can't control it at all.
yeah,
We have to just present our best selves and put our best selves forward and hope
mm,
for the best and just see what happens, really.
yeah,
I think, yeah.
yeah. I think once you've accepted that, it makes the life in the industry so much easier. Because
Yes.
it's just that, oh, okay, it's not me. There's nothing wrong with me.
Next one.
It's
Let's go. Yeah.
that was a great experience auditioning for that, and move on. And
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
And I think with all the auditions and stuff like that, there is an element that the panel will always, they want to work with you. I think that's what people forget,
yeah,
is that they want you to be in the show. That's why you're in the room in the first place. However, they've just got to whittle it down as to who's going to present the show the best.
yeah.
And so I think people forget that as well. I mean, I do it all the time. I forget it, and I'm like, I really wanted that part. Like, why didn't I get it? I let myself down with this. I let myself down with this. I could have done this better. And then it's like, actually, hang on a minute. Take yourself away for a minute. Were you happy with what you presented in the room? Yes. Did you think that you did the best that you possibly could? Yes. Were there elements that you could have improved? Yeah, probably. However, you're happy with what you put forward. Therefore, actually, trust their decision. It's what they know, and you're just potentially not right for the show. There's nothing you can control about it. You just sometimes got to be like, oh, okay, next one, let's go.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's all about mindset, isn't it?
It is, and it's hard to get in that place, but once you have,
yeah,
you kind of, okay,
and it'll be a
let's
constant roller coaster. Like, you'll never be fully in that mindset. There'll be days where you're like, I could have killed for that part of that show.
Yeah,
what are you gonna do?
that's it. Yeah. So, what's been the funniest thing that's happened to you on stage?
Ooh. I have to admit, in Cabaret, a moment that like was so short in comparison to what I thought it was.
Yeah.
There's the scene in Two Ladies. So like, we have a bed that comes out on an angle. There's a little hole in the middle, and like everyone pops out. And you've got all the characters in there. It's the most outrageous number I think I've ever been a part of. And when we were in rehearsals, I was like, I don't even have a Scooby as to what is going on. Like, there's a safari man, there's a giraffe, there's bread, there's like, what is going on? There's a snorkeler, everything. I was like, oh my god, what is happening in this bed? But you just like have to go, okay, fine. But the number started with our MC in the bed with the sheets up, and like he came out hooting a horn and about to go into the number. But in the bed was the two girls under the sheets, and then me at the bottom of the bed.
Right.
And so I had to like sit with my legs like completely flat against the bed, like turned out, with my head then through the hole in the bed, and like John Parcher, MC, his legs like either side of me.
Yeah.
And effectively, like, the look was my legs then shot out the end of the bed, and so it made him look even longer.
Yeah.
It was quite a while you were down there for, and slightly uncomfortable. But like, you got used to it. But there was one day where I don't know what happened. As I put my legs out, that was all fine. But then I had to lift my legs up, and John split them as if they were his legs and he was holding on to the seat. I don't know what happened. I just shifted myself too much up the bed, and my bum just fell through the hole. So having this image of like John being the longest man with his legs poking out the bed to all of a sudden having legs this big, I was like, oh my god, I can't do anything. And because my head was through the hole as well, it wasn't like I could push my bum up and get it back. And I was like, oh, I don't know where I am. Like, I can't push it up. And there was Joey in the bed, like lying the other way underneath it, supporting my back. And he was underneath, like trying to push my bum up. He was like, I can't do it. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I've done. And I just like, it felt like the longest, like 30 seconds in my life.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, oh my god. And I went and apologised to John afterwards, and he was like, I was dying. I was trying so hard not to laugh. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And the worst thing is like, with that, as you kind of like looked out the back of the bed where the hole that we all entered from, I could see the rest of the kinder like wetting themselves laughing. And I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And like, no one knew it was going to be me. Like, my face isn't out. I wasn't on stage. It was just my legs. So I was like, hazard a guess as to whose legs they are if anyone wants to guess. But I was like, oh my God. Oh, I'm mortified. I don't know why. It was like, I was trying to do everything to get myself back up and I just couldn't. And I was like, oh, well, face it.
That then makes it even funnier that you can't do anything.
Yeah. And just the fact that, like, I am 6'2". My legs are like the longest part of me. And so, like, my legs up, John was normally splitting them quite nicely, but instead he was like this, just down. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh dear.
Oh,
But memorable.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Just the complete feeling of I can't do anything anymore. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Oh dear. So what has been your most surreal moment when performing? Your most sort of like, oh my God, pinch me kind of moment?
Ooh. I think I feel like there's two different kind of like sides to my career so far. Like, there's more of my dancey side that I've done with things like putting on the Ritz in my cruise ship that I was on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more musical theatre side, so cabaret. And I kind of, it's all the same career, but I potentially have like this little divide in my head as to that Ben and this Ben and what he's done in between and stuff. And I think for like my more dancey side was certainly going out to Australia. And actually in Melbourne, my brother lives over there. And so like my brother hadn't seen me dance really for like years. He's seen videos and stuff like that as he's been over there. Didn't see any of me dance like throughout college because he was obviously over in Australia. And then all of a sudden, like, his wife and him and his mother-in-law came to see the show in Melbourne. I got so nervous that show. I was like, oh my word. And that was like a surreal moment because it was such a different venue that we were in. But it meant so much to have him there. And actually, like, the opportunity to see the show. He's out in Australia.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got paid to go out to Australia to perform to my brother. I was like, that was amazing. Instead of being like, oh, catch me if you can and like, we'll see what happens. So that was kind of like that side. And then on cabaret, I think when we got to Dublin, we were at the Border Gosh. And it was kind of like, I think at that point on the tour, it was fairly early on at the beginning. It was like the biggest theatre that we'd done.
Yeah.
And our opening night on the Tuesday was completely sold out. And that was just ridiculous. I couldn't believe it at all.
Yeah.
The Border Gosh is so tall as well as like deep in the theatre. And I was like, oh my word. I was not expecting this. And the end of the show for cabaret is a very emotional part. It's not the easiest to do as an ensemble member. Bearing in mind you're butt naked at the back of the stage. And it's all to do with like the gas chambers and the Jews and stuff like that. So it's very emotional and very dark. But to then having finished that scene, run off, chuck your trousers on and come back on for the bows. And the bows were in complete silence. There was always a moment at the end of the show where you were like unsure if the audience would start clapping or not. And ideally, like, you wanted the welcoming wall to come all the way down and there just to be silence. And that happened that evening at the Border Gosh. And it was complete silence until the wall was like fully out again and we were all standing on stage. And we took our first bow and then it like erupted.
Wow.
And I just like completely was mind blown by it. Also, like, the power that the show had, I think, at that moment, going from complete silence to like massive applause and standing ovations from the whole of the Border Gosh. I was like, oh my God. That like me and my main partner in the show, Mary, we ended up round in quick change after the show, just kind of like putting dressing gowns back on and like getting ready to head up to the change room to have a shower with all like your makeup smudged everywhere. And we both just sat down and cried. And we were like, that happened. Like, that is again another tick on that list.
Yeah.
For like one of the biggest theatres in Dublin, and with like such an amazing cast that we had, everything was just like perfect that we both just sat there and cried.
Yeah.
And like everyone had left quick change, and Mary and I looked at each other and we were like, oh, continued to walk up the stairs arm in arm, like two other people, like, oh.
Yeah.
So that was amazing, like the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Really, I think that's what we kind of do it for, isn't it? Those moments where you can actually,
Definitely.
no matter how many shows you've done, no matter how many times you've done that show, no matter where you've been in the country or world or whatever, moments like that just take you right back to it again. And that was one of them, a massive one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So, from the projects and shows that you've done, have you ever taken any props or costumes home with you?
I definitely bought trainers home from my ship. I had like a brand new pair of Converse that I hadn't ever worn for like the rock show.
Yeah.
Mine started breaking like halfway through my contract, and I managed to kind of get them fixed, but by which point they'd already sent a new pair on.
Yeah.
And so I was like, not really, unfortunately.
You obviously need to steal more stuff when you leave.
Yeah, I think I do. No, I think trainers from the ship, that's it. I never got a chance to on Cabaret. I probably would have done. I don't know what I would have stolen though. Some bits were too big to steal and some bits were too tiny, and you're like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I could have stolen like a fake cigarette from Cabaret, and I was like, what am I going to do with that? Yeah, then never got the chance really, because the show was just closed without us being there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
There's I don't think I'd want to. I didn't really have anything as a character that I'd like want to take.
Yeah.
But there's always like the little comforts backstage that you have that I'd want back. And like, I don't know why, boys got new dressing gowns on Cabaret. Like we all got our dressing gowns. Because there was never anything nice about the fact that we start the show in these tiny little pair of leather hot pants and a waistcoat, and that's it.
Yeah.
And like some venues were freezing cold, and you're like, oh my word, like no. So you were like in your dressing gown literally until you had to go on. You were like, this is toasty. I don't know why I still want that dressing gown to this day. Never got a chance to take it because it was put on the lorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want that dressing gown. And that's kind of like all I want. I'd like the leather hot pants, funny enough, but I'm never going to wear them. Well, I'm not going to walk around my kitchen like.
Well, you know, you do.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would have to be things like that.
Yeah,
like little bits and bobs.
Yeah, practical things that you can use like at home, but that just remind you of happy memories and stuff. Yeah.
I don't think I'd want like the sequin waistcoats that we had because they just scratched you.
Yeah.
Well, the comfiest.
No, definitely not. Okay, top 5 musicals, either to be in or to watch.
Ooh, okay. Oh my word.
I know it's a really hard one, isn't it?
It's so many.
Only 5.
Yeah. Come From Away has to be one that I was completely like mind blown by.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my word, I was not expecting to have that range of emotions in like one show.
Totally.
And when you say, like I said to my family before, I was like, oh, Come From Away is kind of about all to do with 9/11 and the people of like all different planes getting diverted to Newfoundland. And I was like, oh, it sounds really depressing when you say it. I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know if I want to go see it now. I've just explained it. But like to have that range of emotions in that show and just be like, they were incredible. The show is so well done that I was like, really, the best thing I've seen like in ages. You get so involved in the characters, don't you? You can't help yourself. You don't realise you just completely sucked in by the characters. It's amazing. And to only have that small cast do the whole thing was just mind blowing. So yeah, Come From Away. As I said, I think like Wicked has to be up there for one of like the shows that I really want to be in, but like spectacle wise, I will never forget the first time I saw it, and like when they end up in Oz, the whole auditorium going green. I was like, oh my god! I was like, well done, that's
Yeah.
incredible. Bit emotional. Like my mum went on for years and years and years about Miss Saigon, and from when it was like first on, I never obviously got a chance to see it when I was younger, and I just kept having my mum going and going and going, being like, "It's the best show," blah 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 blah, and the music's stunning and everything, and I was like, "Yeah, okay," and then actually seeing it when it came back into town, God, however many years ago that was now,
couple of years.
I was like, yes, everything about that show, yes, well done, very very well done. And that is one that you just can't help but walk away feeling like completely like, I like that feeling when you're a little bit like emotionally drained from a show.
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different feeling to a lot of shows that are potentially out there where you feel amazing. You felt like, I can't believe that just happened, and everything around it.
Yeah.
Is that 3? 2 more. Funny enough, one to watch out for, which I thoroughly enjoyed when we were in Manchester on the tour of Cabaret.
Yeah.
We were in the Palace, but in the Opera House at the time was Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And Mary, my dance partner, her fiance is the head sound guy for Back to the Future.
Okay.
So we all got slightly discounted tickets.
Yeah.
To go and watch it on. I think we stayed like the weekend afterwards. We all made like an extra long weekend at Manchester. Because we were like, we're here, might as well enjoy it. Like, let's go out, let's go and see Back to the Future. And like, as a whole cast, we pretty much went. That is one to look out for because it is mind blowing.
I can imagine the effects are amazing.
Just like
it's the twins, isn't it? So yeah,
was phenomenal. There's nothing like the overture sitting there and just having that music. I was like, oh my word, this is insane. And then I remember like the first car appearance. Like all of the cast were looking at each other going like, did they just do that? How? I rewind, I want to see it again. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And actually, funny enough, one of the swings, like offstage swings, was sitting next door to us and doing a show watch because they were still very much like in previews up in Manchester and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so they were constantly going through notes, and like mutual friends and everything like that were in it. And she was sitting there and she watched all of our reaction and she went, "Yeah." And I was like, "You're in the show and you still can't believe it." Like, what? So definitely like watch out for that when it comes to London. It's going to be immense. And then my last one, has to be Hamilton. Has to be. I think I've been obsessed with the soundtrack for years. Like when it first came out, I was like, it took me a long time to get into because of the rapping. I didn't know that much about American politics and stuff.
Yeah.
And especially like Hamilton himself, I had no idea. But I think it's so cleverly written. I think seamlessly as a show is just fantastic. I only went to go see it. Would have been November 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, like so it had been out for a while. I got my mum tickets for her birthday, and I was like, I don't care how much I'm paying for these tickets. I was like, now I have to go and see this show. Like, now is the best time I'm going to get to. I've got money in my account. I was like, it's your birthday. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
And so it did not let me down in any aspect of it. I absolutely adore the show. I think it's just so cleverly done, and transitions in between the songs and the scenes and everything like that were just spotless.
Yeah.
And again, I would kill to be in that. Absolutely kill to be in it.
Yeah.
I'm like waiting for auditions to come around again, and I'm like, come on. But yeah, I think those 5 sound about right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Quick fire round now to finish off. Right, ready?
I'm not very quick, as you can tell. I'm like, no.
Take as long as you like. So, tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Sun or rain?
Sun.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Musical or play?
Musical.
Comedy or tragedy?
Tragedy.
Ooh. Sweet or savoury?
Sweet.
Meat or veg?
Meat.
Hugs or kisses?
Hugs.
Night out or night in?
Oh, night in. I'm an old granddad.
Tour or West End run?
Oh, that's very hard. I don't know. I've not done a West End run, so I'd absolutely kill to do a West End run. However, being on tour was amazing.
Yeah.
Blah. I'm gonna go West End run.
Cool.
Yeah.
Favourite film?
Oh, I was not ready for that. I really don't know. Oh my god, that's really hard. Can I do like favourite TV series instead?
Yeah, that'll do. That'll do.
How to Get Away with Murder.
Do you know what I'm watching at the moment? And I think I'm halfway through season 5, and I only started watching it 10 days ago.
Yes.
Literally, I can't watch anything else. I need to know it. I fell asleep watching it twice. It's that I can't. I'm just one more episode. I can't do it. It's amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh my word. I'm watching it like the second time round. Like my parents didn't watch it. I've watched it before. I'm watching it the second time round, and I've forgotten everything. And I'm like, no.
I've no. You do shout at the screen all the time. I'm like, no way. It's like, what am I doing?
Such good cliffhangers, don't they?
Yeah, and I've never known.
Next episode.
Yeah, I've never known a series to have so many twists and turns in it. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That has to be up there.
Definitely.
Sorry, I had to change that. I was like, I couldn't think of a film. Oh.
No, that you can definitely have that one. Favorite book?
Loving the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series.
Okay.
Not a massive reader. Getting into it now, and I'm like hooked as well.
Cool. And last one, ultimate comfort food.
I love a spaghetti bolognese, and not gonna lie, my dad makes a banging spaghetti bolognese, and so I think like that, just in a nice little bowl, I'm like, okay, I could eat that all day. It's pasta, it's like meat, it's everything I love. I love a carb.
Yeah. Cool. Ben, thank you so much. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And I'll speak to you soon.
Yes, speak to you soon.
See you soon. Bye.